Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to learn a really important skill together, how to read a story in English and really understand it. We're going to break it all down step by step with a simple story to guide us. It's going to be great.
So here's what we've got on the agenda today. First, we'll read our story. Then we'll figure out the who, where, and when, the basics. After that, we'll dig a little deeper to find the main idea and the little clues or details that back it up. And finally, we'll learn a really cool skill called reading between the lines. By the time we're done, you'll have some awesome new reading skills. Ready? Let's get started.
All right, first things first, we need a story to work with, right? I'm going to read it out loud for you. Just listen or read along with me on the screen. Let's do it nice and slow.
Okay, so that was our story. It's all about a man from American history named Samuel Adams. Now, let's take this little piece of text and start practicing our very first reading skill.
All right, let's jump into our first skill. Every story, big or small, has a few basic parts. Think of them like building blocks. And the easiest way to find them is by asking 3 simple questions.
And there you have it. The answers are right there in the very first few sentences of the story. So, who is it about? Samuel Adams. Where does it happen? Massachusetts. And when? Way back in the 1700s. See how easy that was? Getting these basics down first gives us a really strong start for understanding the rest of the story.
Awesome job! Now that we've got the basics covered, let's move on to the next skill, which is finding the main idea. And trust me, this one is super important for understanding any text you read.
That's such a good question. What is a main idea? Sometimes when you're reading, there are so many words, so many sentences. It's easy to get a little lost. The main idea is simply the most important point the writer wants you to remember. It's like the heart of the story.
Yeah, you can think of it like this. The main idea is kind of like the headline of a news article. It's that one sentence that sums up the whole thing. It's the big, central point, and all the other sentences in the story are there to support it.
So for our story about Samuel Adams, the main idea is pretty clear. He stood up against British rules that he thought were unfair. That's it. Every other piece of information in that little paragraph is there to explain that one big idea.
Okay, but how do we know that's the main idea? How can we be sure? Well, a good main idea always has proof to back it up, right in the text. And we call that proof details.
So what are details? They're just the small pieces of information, the little facts that show us the main idea is true. They're the evidence, the proof.
So, our main idea says the British rules were unfair. Now, it's our job to be detectives. We need to look back at the story and find the exact sentences, the exact details that show us why they were unfair. Let's see what we can find.
If you look closely, the story actually gives us 3 really clear examples of these unfair things the British did. Let's take a look at them one by one. And here they are. First, they made people pay high taxes. Second, they put soldiers all over the streets. And third, they kicked people out of their own homes for those soldiers. These 3 things, these are our details. They're the proof that shows us exactly why Samuel Adams felt he had to do something.
Excellent work. You're doing great. We're ready for our final and maybe most interesting skill. It's called reading between the lines. Another way to say this is making an inference.
So, what does that mean? Well, sometimes a writer doesn't tell you everything directly. They don't spell it all out. Instead, they give you little clues, and you have to use those clues to figure out a hidden meaning.
Yeah, making an inference is all about being a detective again. You take the clues the writer gives you in the story, you add what you already know about the world, and you put them together to understand something the writer didn't say but wanted you to figure out. Let's try it with our story. Okay, so the text says that writing the letter was treason, and the punishment for that was death. Whoa. The writer never says this was very dangerous, but we can understand that, right? We can infer it was dangerous. And another thing, it says Adams helped write that letter. Well, if he did something that could get him killed, what does that tell us about him? We can infer that he was probably very brave and maybe a leader. See how that works? We're using the clues to learn more.
You have done such a fantastic job today. Seriously. Let's quickly review all the amazing new skills that you can now put in your reading toolkit.
So, here are the 4 steps we learned. Step 1, find the basics, the who, where, and when. Step 2, find the main idea, the one big point. Step 3,
Find the details that act as proof. And step 4, read between the lines and make an inference. You can use these 4 steps to understand any story you read. It's a great little system.
You really built a strong foundation today. And, the best way to get better at something is to practice. So, I have a little challenge for you. Go find another story, maybe a news article or a short story online, and try using these 4 steps. I think you'll be surprised at how much more you can understand. Happy reading!